So let's take a look at our first location. So this is the Perth area. Talk me through it, boys. What are we looking at? What's going on in Perth?
Yeah, Perth area, it's pretty flat, except there are some mountains near the coast. So like right in that corner of the country in the southwest. And there's a lot of eucalyptus trees. It's those that are like sticking up with like the leaves up and then the whitish bark. And then what I usually associate with this Western Australia area is the reddish orangish soil that they have along the side of the road.
Yeah,
Um,
that orange is pretty distinct.
yeah. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. And the eucalyptus trees are something those god awful koala bears eat. Am I right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Horrible, dirty things. Riddled with syphilis. Little fact there before start fancying a koala bear. So just to give you an idea of the actual area of this location, obviously Perth over here, a little bit more out in the sticks here, but it gives you a good idea of
Yeah, you
whereabouts
can kind
you
of
could
see
be.
the mountains there along the coast.
Sweet, brilliant. Right, well that's the Perth area. So we're going to move on to the northwest area. Um, So it's got some similar themes going on here. Obviously, we're seeing some more of this reddish soil, but the actual landscape is looking quite a bit different.
Yeah, it's much more desert-like, shrubbish, but still has that distinct red color. The vegetation is much more scarce, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
most likely a sign of a northwestern West Australia coastal road.
Okay, so as coming from a neek here, this is the exact kind of location that I would open up and immediately second guess. Um, Wait, this it feels like Australia, but this could be South Africa, right? Is there anything specifically here that would make you go, well, it isn't South Africa because what would be some of those details you'd be looking out for?
There are three things that I would say. First of all, the bollards there, which are specific to Australia, they have the white with some red on them. Yeah. And then the road has white lines on the outside instead of yellow, which you would find in South Africa. And
Yeah.
also they have that like little like tick marks like on them, which I've never seen in South Africa before, so only in
Yeah, probably
Australia.
kind of like rumble strips in the US.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is quite interesting, isn't it? Which would make sense because I guess you're driving for quite long distances in Australia, so the more prominent rumble strips because you're more likely, I guess, to fall asleep while traveling. I don't know. That would be my theory, at least. Okay, well, interesting. So, yeah, a couple of actual factors there. You can immediately say, well, South Africa. You can bin that off, and make a more confident guess in Australia. Let's just take a quick look about where that actual location was taken from. Obviously, said the northwest. So obviously, this was our last location down here, north, west, and yeah, quite coastal as you rightly said. Right, so we're gonna go look at the Darwin area next. Again, this one again quite different. Some similarities, but again quite different visually. Which goes to show, obviously, just the sheer size of the bloody place. So, yeah, what what's sticking out to you here?
A landscape which I can describe as once you've seen one, you've seen all. That reddish soil, a bit darker as in Western Australia, but still very
Mm,
red, along those tropical trees, and just a general feel. You see also a few eucalyptus trees sprinkled in there in that whole forested area.
Yeah, but
And
very few eucalyptus, I'd say. Mostly these other trees
yeah,
with like
these
the
other
black
tropical
bark.
trees.
Yeah, and they have this black bark, which is kind of strange.
Yeah,
And the
it's got
mixture of a bright green along with that distinct red,
yeah.
that's the Darwin
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
It's a strange combination, I guess. There's a lot of contrast going on, and you kind of got these slightly patchy kind of grasses, um, which obviously kind of keeps that soil poking through or whatever, which is quite interesting as well. So yeah, a bit more of a tropical theme here. Definitely slightly
Still
different.
dry, but you can see that it gets, no, nonetheless, quite a bit of precipitation.
Yes. What is this? What is this? Is this like a turnip thing? Wait, no, not no termite.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they have all sorts of weird insects and snakes and stuff in Australia. I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, fuck that. I've got a best friend from Australia, and he is an absolute snake. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, so that was actually called the Rum Jungle, um, which is an interesting name for a location. Um,
Next to Bachelor.
next to actually, yeah, Jesus, this is like the Chad area of Australia. So yeah, right at the top here, and obviously here is Darwin. Um, just on the coast here as well. So
The biggest city in northern Australia.
fact near Humpty Doo, which I mean you can't make some of these places up. So yeah, that was like a yellow road called what in Old Rum Jungle. Interesting. Let's move on to the next area. So this one's been described as the centre area, which might give away some clues as to where it actually is. So yeah, talk us through it, boys. What we see?
Yeah, this area is definitely the most dry area. I would say like around Alice Springs and like maybe a little to the south of it, like going towards that lake area, which really isn't lakes. It's just like dry
Salt pan, actually.
salt pan, yeah. But yeah, there's some hills around the Alice Springs area, but other than that, it's completely flat. This is where Ayers Rock or Uluru is, if you've heard of that. So yeah, just kind of think that sort of landscape is just dry and red.
Yeah, I didn't. For some reason, I associate this more with Australia than I guess the other ones that we've seen, which is just more deserty and warm looking. I guess just well, sand equals warm. I guess in my brain. Um, yeah, I think it's obviously the kind of red rocks and again this like red soil is quite distinctive. I'm just trying to work out that is a piece of driftwood or is that a dead animal?
Could easily be
Uh,
dead animals that are just dried
I
out.
don't know.
I think they're both dried out animals.
I
Interesting.
have no idea.
So I think we've had if I'm right in thinking Kyle's question in the chat is what's the real difference here between this and Eswatini? I'm assuming that's what his question is. Um, but
At first, the Generation 4 camera, then road lines. You don't see the typical Eswatini white Google car, and the red is a different shade. It's way more dry. Eswatini has more mountain, more yeah, rolling hills and trees. So there's that.
okay, I did get the question wrong, but good facts anyway. And obviously, yeah, good spot on the Gen 4, which is interesting. Um, he, he meant Southwest Australia. Um, is there any
Oh
big
yeah, this is the
distinctions?
desert, and Southwest Australia is pretty lush and green, except south of Perth.
Okay.
South of Perth.
I hope that answered your question, Kyle. Sorry for getting it wrong in the first instance. Yeah, Kyle, it was not a Neek, it was me. But this is an education for me as much as any of you fuckers in the chat. So that was one of the locations. We've got a second location here from a similar area. So we'll just quickly take a look at where this is. So here we are. It's on. Ilpapa Swamp Wildlife Protected Area. If you want to take a look there, you got the Alice Springs Desert Park there. There's an airport there, but obviously pretty central here. Yeah, and obviously as you can see on the map, it's quite deserty looking on the map itself as well. So this is another location that you guys sent over for the same element here. So what's going on with this highway? What's special about this?
This is the famous Stewart Highway, connecting South Australia with the Northern Territory. You can say Adelaide to Darwin, and it's just the most deserty looking north-south empty road in Australia. It's pretty distinct with those small trees, shrubs, bushes, and the general deserty feel.
Yeah, the road is in very good condition. But yeah, it's definitely got that kind of deserty feel to it. I have noticed I mean, in my eyes, I would say this is kind of a little bit of a rift thing going on here. But is this just kind of a general camera glitch? Nothing too specific meta wise there, or
Nothing too specific. Those small glitches you can have in any country.
sweet?
It could be that in the next frame there's no rift.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So yeah.
Right, let's take a look at this this fat ass road. Um, Jesus. Okay, so I imagine it's this bad boy that just runs all the way down here.
Straight through the country, yeah.
Right, and this the whole road has coverage.
The whole road, yeah.
Ah, right. So that now I'm starting to understand a bit more when you said it's going to likely be this road, if you're kind of hitting those different features. Okay, interesting. That's something I didn't consider, but especially from the coverage angle. So that's actually really helpful, I think. Okay, cool. Moving on then. We've got a South Australia location coming up next. Let me clear down some of these tabs. Right. So, South Australia, what are we saying, boys?
Yeah, here's Australia kind of starts to look different. See, here we don't have the red sand on the side of the road. Now it's white sand. So, like, me and Nighty kind of joke about the white sand meta being South Australia, so
Yeah.
around this sort of area. And again, there's a lot of eucalyptus trees, which you can see. It's kind of grassy plains, occasionally some hills around here, but yeah, kind of also dry looking.
Yeah, very dry looking, but quite different to what we've seen before. And you're right in saying I think the big indicator of that is the color of the kind of the sand and the dirt. Then, I know a couple of guys are talking about the car meta from the last one. Is there anything to note here? I know we actually can't see any of the vehicle that we're in. So is this a kind of this location's more to be focusing on what you can see around you?
Yeah, in Australia, in Gen 3, it's white car long antenna, but this is Gen 4, so it doesn't really matter, you can't tell. And same with Gen 2 and Gen 1, you can't tell. So that only applies to Gen 3.
Okay, I was gonna say it does seem quite pleasant this location. Right, let's take a look at the map itself then. So South Australia, it was. There we go. Yeah, and obviously, on the map labelled very much as South Australia. This was a little bit inland from the coast, and I guess, I mean, is it kind of and this is just me spitballing here, but I imagine as you come in from the coast, that kind of sandy, the soil kind of gradients into the darker colours as you move further north, and that would be
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
It gets redder and redder the more north you go.
yeah.
Okay, right, interesting. Cool. So that was a bit of South Australia. So we're going to have a look at the Adelaide area. Adelaide. Adelaide. Yes. I should actually do the accent for the whole thing really because it's quite good. So again, we've got some more of this light soil. So yeah, talk me through it, boys.
Yeah, it's as the former location, pretty white sand, or let's say soil, and pretty grassy, probably deforested for human use. That is in South Australia, closer to the human population, let's say.
Mm, okay. Seems like this. Obviously, we've got some fencing going on here. I mean, is it? I guess that obviously you mentioned
It's
deforesting.
not typical to any state or territory in Australia.
Okay, I think. Well, I mean, fencing, yeah, maybe not. But is this kind of area? I was going to say, is this more obviously with the deforestation? Is it more common to see kind of farmland around here, or little farms and that sort of thing? I know we've got
It
a couple of little buildings
depends on
off
the
here.
quality. There's a farm, yeah, but it could also be just ground for for animals to
Okay,
grass on. But it depends on the season if you see fields, agriculture, or just some overgrown shrubs where animals can feed on.
makes sense. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Not too dissimilar from the last one. So we've got a bit of an antenna going on here. Anything to say on that one?
Yep,
Yeah, this
it's the
is
same as mentioned before. Yeah,
yeah. Yep.
Okay. Sweet. Just a quick shout out to Jaywall. 4 month streak on tier one sub. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. He says boar bunts, baby boggers, which is particularly impressive that he's so fluent in Beanish as well.
legend.
So this one, let's just take a quick look at Ridley Road. Um, so here's obviously Adelaide. Kind of hop, skip, and a jump over from our last location. Um, and uh, not quite obviously that close to the city, but you're still going to find more population and as you said closer to people, um, which you can pick up little signs of as you're guessing. This is this. Does Kangaroo Island have coverage, or is this still considered enemy territory in Australia?
They have Gen 1 and Gen 2 cameras.
Wow, that is very
Yeah.
quite brave of them to go over there. Um, so this, I just want to get you the guys tuning into the podcast an idea of some of the notes that we're looking at here. The next note doesn't have a link to a location. It just says Western NSW and Queensland. Honestly, you are fucked here. Like I have no idea how to distinguish this huge area. Just pray you get two
It
thousand points.
it all comes down to luck. If you play movie
Yeah.
challenges, sometimes you can get on a strip of road that has no exit on either way. You're just stuck in that stretch of road. It's so sparse the coverage, but in general, what I've seen, and this just applies to Generation 1 cameras, the darker red the soil is, the more north you are. If you see a few hills and maybe light orangey color, you're probably in New South Wales. If the red is almost hurting your eyes, you're in Queensland.
It's
But
almost.
don't quote me on that. That's just my experience on those sparsely covered roads.
I mean, it's not often the best players in the game say you're fucked in a particular location. So I think it does go to show that this is a particularly difficult place to guess. Just obviously due to some of the factors you listed off. I mean, RC, do you have any little random tidbits that you could share that might help just a tiny bit?
Nope. None
No.
whatsoever, honestly.
Okay
Just
then.
look up what roads are covered, what the direction of those roads are, and guess by memory.
Yeah, that is it is a strategy. It's not an easy one, and if you've got that sort of inclination about you, I mean, good luck to yourselves. But yeah, not an easy one to pick up a bunch of points on. But knowing the other areas, knowing the other landscapes and stuff, it can certainly help you not guess in those areas. So 2,000 points is better than 200 points that you might have got otherwise. So always something, always narrowing down where you might be is always going to help you get something. Cool. So we'll move on from the fucked location to Western and Central Victoria. So I think we've got some Generation 2, if I'm not mistaken. What can we say about this one?
Yeah, it is Gen 2. So this is like I would say it's the primary farmland area of Australia. It's pretty flat, maybe occasional rolling hills, but other than that, it's, just grassland, some nicer looking trees here. But yeah, still some eucalyptus as well. And I'd say there isn't really a soil meta for this area. I think just kind of go off of the grassiness.
Yeah, you
Just
can see the grass
yeah,
also getting a bit more green, so a bit
Mm.
more rain is always also down
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, so the grass is
Just
a little
greener
bit
grass than
longer
in
as
South
well, yeah.
Australia.
And you said something about rolling hills. So I mean, I guess if you load up Geoguessr, he's going to show up, or are we talking about something else?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, good to know. And obviously, this quite a. I mean, the visibility of the stars in this location is incredible. You can see all sorts. Oh, there's a shooting star here. So guys, if you can see a space rainbow, I think that's a spaceship. If you can see any of these details, essentially the Aurora Borealis is up here somewhere if you look for long enough. Really incredible sightseeing element of Australia there. I know, incredible. Right, moving on from that. So you guys are gonna have to just. I read this when we were doing the planning, and putting together a document, and it didn't mean anything to me. So guys, please talk me through the Great Dividing Range, starting off with Canberra. What the hell are you talking about?
The Great Dividing Range is simply explained the Eastern Mountain Range going down from Queensland towards towards Victoria, where also the highest mountain can be found, and stretching down under the sea towards Tasmania.
Okay, interesting.
It's just a huge mountain range on the eastern side of the country, similar to Brazil.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but what's interesting about the Great Dividing Range is like it is a really long mountain range. I think it's one of the longest in the world, like after the Andes and the Rockies, I think.
Huh.
Yeah,
But it's really not that like the mountains aren't that big. Um, they mostly look, yeah, like this, just kind of, I want to say rolling hills, maybe a bit bigger, but
Yeah.
they're not like super tall mountains.
Okay.
yeah, they just get tall the further south you go. But
Interesting.
even that's not really tall in comparison to other mountain ranges.
Okay, let's actually take a look at this on the map itself.
But in general, you can say the more mountainous it is, the more southwest in Australia it is.
Okay, interesting. So I guess
Southeast, sorry.
you're starting to see some of the elevation on the map here, um, which is interesting. And then obviously
Yeah,
we've got another location.
that mountain over there, Mount Kosciuszko. I'm not exactly sure how to
I
pronounce it,
think
but
Mount Kosciuszko.
yeah, that's the tallest mountain in Australia. So this is the highest elevation that
Okay,
you get.
I mean, it's quite a unique looking landscape. When you start to look at it, from up here, obviously not something you're gonna find on GeoGuessr, but it's pretty individual in what it looks like. You can't really compare it to too much else. So we've got the other part
It looked a little like Scotland
in
on the
in
right from
like
the pictures.
a weird kind of way, doesn't it? Yeah. Maybe not
Yeah,
quite as lush, obviously, but yeah, in a strange roundabout way. You're right. So this was the other location for the dividing range. So this one is described as being by Brisbane. I
Yeah,
mean,
you can
it's looking
see
different.
it's a bit more tropical in the sense that it's still in the mountains, so it's drier than in the south, where the former location was.
Yeah.
So actually, you can always also say the drier the mountainous area is, the more north you are.
Drier, more north. Okay. For a second, I was thinking, do you know what? I'd probably drop a Columbia on this one.
Not with the wallet there visible.
Well, maybe not for
Yeah,
you.
but
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, and just to kind of give it a little bit more context. Um, so we come up here. Here's obviously here's Brisbane, um, and yeah, again we've got some of this range here. Yeah, pretty interesting location, and yeah, fair bit different to the last one we looked at. Um, and then we've also got a bonus picture here. Nino bonus pick. This is this. Why is this a bonus picture, and why do I see yellow?
yeah, very rarely in Australia do you get completely yellow. So like you'd find in Chile as well. And it's because this is right by that mountain, and this is in that national park. So this area it does occasionally snow. So that's why they have
Yeah,
these lines.
you
So
can see it by the name Alpine Way. There are also a few ski resorts up there in the mountains, and there's as well a bit of snowy coverage in that general area. So don't be surprised when you get snowy Australia. Just be prepared for it.
that is that is particularly interesting. Um, Yeah, and obviously, if you didn't know, something I learned is that yellow lines are there to stand out in the snow. Um, that's pretty much what they're there to do. Obviously, white lines getting covered up. So yeah, that's why there is some of it in Chile, obviously to account for some of the more areas that get snow, I guess. Um, just gonna put a quick pause. I've got a, a I don't know if it's a bug or whatever, but Twitch is telling me that it's trying to connect to chat. My chat doesn't seem to be loading. Is anyone else experiencing a problem?
No, the chat works perfectly for me.
Yeah, working for me.
Okay. Um, I've refreshed. The stream seems to be fine, but I might not be able to see chat. So I'll leave you guys to keep an eye on that. Sorry if I miss anything in the chat, guys. It's just not working for me right this second.
Simraj asked, apart from bollards, how would you say this was Aussie and not South Africa? You mean the yellow line location or the tropical mountain location? This one, the yellow lines?
Yeah, I guess would it be the yellow center lines of because you wouldn't get those in.
Definitely, you won't ever get yellow center lines in South Africa, but just the general look of the trees, it's way more kind of temperate. In spite, well, in
And the
South Africa, you just
eucalyptus
have.
trees.
Yeah, the eucalyptus
I
meta
think at
seems to be
higher
big.
elevation, eucalyptus trees aren't there, but you can see more temperate trees as opposed to South Africa's desert trees and pine fields.
Yeah. So it seems like I get again this learning those kind of smaller nuances is actually going to save you uh, a lot of time thinking about the two areas. So not necessarily always going to be a case of being able to grab a specific piece of meta information like the road lines or anything like that. So, this is kind of area where, again, one of the reasons why we didn't necessarily produce a slideshow of loads of different signs and all the rest of it is because it's a lot more difficult to capture, some of these
The
vegetations and stuff.
diversity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, hugely. And obviously, just taking a look on the map here, so our location was not too far away from my Columbia looking location I suggested. And yeah, the yellow lines are being particularly interesting as obviously as we're kind of going through this mountain pass. I don't know how you describe that, but Yeah, there you go. Right, going to move on then. That was the bonus pick. Very nice bonus. It's certainly given me one. We're going to be looking at the northeast area. Northeast area. Um, Townsville stroke Cairns or Cairns. I'm sure I'm
Cairns,
mispronouncing that.
yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think Cairns.
the northern coverage of the Australian east coast.
And I think again, this
Yeah,
is a shift in the visuals. So yeah, talk me through it.
yeah, this area is very tropical. Again, some tall mountains. This is like the northern end of the Great Dividing Range, so there are some tall mountains here. It's a lot of agriculture, but it's like different from the other parts of Australia. It's like
Mm.
more crops here, and there are some palms as well if you look around. I think there was one to the north. So if you see palms, you should probably go in this area.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, palms and crop fields. And
Yeah.
that main road has Gen 4 coverage, a pretty distinct one, I should say, because of that green as well.
Yeah. It's incredibly vibrant. This location, obviously, we've got some bollards and stuff with this being particularly main road. I think there's some more palm trees in the background there. So that's a railroad, isn't it? Is there? I mean, is there anything to say about the railroad in conjunction with coverage on Geoguessr? Is it something that you see quite regularly, or is it something that might help you make a guess?
Yeah, I'd say there's quite a lot of roads in Australia that have railroads along them. I
Yeah,
guess
especially
I
the
don't know
main
if
covered roads in between all those vast nothingness. They have a
yeah,
railroad along the main road.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Right, we'll just zoom out, take a look at the map. Sorry, guys, I still can't see the chat. So appreciate RC and Nighty obviously keeping an eye on things. Not sure what's going on with Twitch, but it likes to troll every now and then. So obviously Queensland, we said the location was. So I mean, some of that lushness definitely I think is going to be explained by the proximity to the coast, I imagine. And obviously that's actually quite close to a national park as well. I don't think I've ever clicked up here when playing Geoguessr. I'm a bit of a hedger when it comes to Australia, so I guess this is a location where you could certainly make up some points over, um, if you're playing against me, which maybe there's not a chance of losing, but yeah, pretty.
Definitely. When you see that coverage, you click either near Cairns or near Townsville, and it will always give you 4,000 points around that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So be more ballsy with your guesses. Hopefully, after watching the podcast. Cairns, as politics says, my chat seems to have reconnected. So welcome back, you neeks. I was actually enjoying not seeing what you had to say for once, but there we go. Cool. So I think we're going over to the lovely, wonderful area of Waswania or Basmania. Or Tasmania, as it's also known. This is Cressy in Tasmania. Again, kind of different in a weird way. I mean, yeah, talk me through it.
No, you got this one.
Perfect. Yeah, it's just cold grassland, you can say. You just have a few trees here and there. Also keep in mind, a lot of Tasmania just have Generation 2 coverage, unlike the rest of Australia. Yeah, that's Gen 2. Yeah, it just looks cold. It feels cold. Sometimes with nicer coverage, you can see a bit of vineyards along the roads, especially signs towards vineyards. But other than that, if it looks cold, if it looks a bit more mountainous than normal Australia, it should be Tasmania.
Interesting. I mean, for you, that description is quite interesting because I, when you mention cold, I guess in a way it does feel more cold. Doesn't feel quite as lush.
Cold for Australia,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
yeah, in the context of that area of the world, 100%. But yeah, compared to locations we've been looking at, definitely has that kind of feel to it. I think the coverage there a little bit overcast as well, which probably helps define that feeling a little bit. But as you're saying, obviously, this is it's a decent jump off from the mainland. So that was lovely Tassie. Again, is it coverage in Tasmania? This is something that you need to be aware of, or is it pretty covered?
It's just that Tasmania in general has more Generation 2, but it's such a small state. You could easily find the same coverage of Generation 2 in Victoria, for example.
Right.
But Gen 2 is more ubiquitous in Tasmania than anywhere else, yeah.
Sweet. Um,
Except Kangaroo Island, of
except
course.
except Kangi Island.
The wonderful Kangaroo Island.
Right. Well, that was Australia, mate.